Well, good evening and welcome to the Oak Point Nature Preserve in Plano, Texas. Tonight's exercise is part one of a two-part evaluation of the CyanSky K3 V2 Flashlight that I have right in front of me. Well, I also have the V1 right in front of me. Which is which? Actually, from the outside, it's practically impossible to tell. From the inside, the V2 has higher lumens and, even more importantly, higher peak candela. Now, if you own the V1, are the differences between the two enough to justify the upgrade cost? Well, I really can't answer that. It's your budget, your use case, and your use cases. But the only thing I can do is show the lights off and let you decide. And yes, I will put these two lights head to head, turbo versus turbo. I'll also show you the V2 lighting modes under different realistic circumstances. And hopefully by the end of the video, you will have enough information to make an informed decision. And with that in mind, let's get out there and see what these lights can do. All right, we're set up by the lake. I have the K3 V1 on the left, K3 V2 on the right, both in low mode. Now let's go to medium. Then high. Honestly, this is the first mode where I can really start seeing some difference. Now for the next shot, I'm going to have to reset because we're going across the entire lake in turbo. Okay, looking across the lake, maximum distance line of sight is just over 600 yards. I'm going to move the V2 out. That's the V1. Now let's move the V2 back in. And then both side to side. This is another turbo versus turbo, but looking across the lake a little over 100 yards. And as I scan back and forth, now I'm starting to see the difference between the two a bit better. The V2 is giving me a bright beam, but over a wider field of view. And so that's where the extra lumens are going, and so we're needing the extra candela to maintain the level of brightness over that field of view. So from a search and rescue perspective, which is my use case, I would definitely find the V2 to be useful. Now I am noticing that the V2 right now is getting just a tiny bit warm. It's 46 degrees outside. This is the beginning of the fall-winter review season. But yeah, I'm definitely starting to see it here in the across the lake test. It just didn't seem it made that much difference, but I can definitely see it here. All right, well, let's go look at the V2 and some of its various modes under a variety of conditions. So what I'm doing here is I'm lighting up a tree line at close distance. This is probably 12 yards extending back to 20 or so back through the trees, and I'm in low. You can see how tight that hot spot is. You do have some usable spill, but it's primarily a thrower, so you're looking at the hot spot there. This is low mode, just scanning back and forth against this tree line. Okay, we're upping the game a bit. Now we're looking into a deeper opening. This is the entrance to a trail, and I'm in medium mode, just scanning again back and forth across a tree line. Give you an idea of the contrast of hot spot versus spill. Very, very good for just point or small area illumination. All right, that's enough of the lower modes. Let's go have some fun. We'll spend the rest of the night in high and turbo. So how well does a light function in tandem with my headlamp? I have my headlamp in 400 lumen flood, so what I'm going to show you here is something I do a lot in search and rescue, and that is targeted searches of bodies of water. There's a creek in front of me, and I'm going to scan up and down the creek and along the creek line with the K3 V2 in high. Here we go. Like if you're going to use a light in a sustained mode, I always think you make your money, so to speak, off of the medium and high modes, and so that's why this test is probably one of the most important ones for me tonight, as I could often spend a pretty long time searching bodies of water, and this is doing an excellent job in high mode. Yeah, especially as you get right along in here, you're able to see easily down to the bottom of the creek without annoying reflections. Okay, so that's a sustained test in high. Yeah, I think it's time for some turbo fun. Okay, I posted up along the edge of a tree line here, have a drainage area, and I'm looking out to a cluster of trees that is over 400 yards from my current position. I can barely light them up. Now, in all fairness, there is quite a bit of light pollution from the surrounding city. Of course, you can see vehicles in the road behind there. That's about I don't know, somewhere between 450 and 500 yards. But still, that's a pretty solid beam. I'm more interested not so much in the trees as detail that I can pick up at ground level. So I'm looking, if I'm looking for a person, I'm looking for anything they might have dropped, possibly a piece of clothing. Can I just get some quick sign, or am I going to have to go out and do a targeted search of this area? And so that's another good sustained turbo shot. This is an interesting shot. I have about 10 parking lot lights behind me, and I'm looking into an opening that goes along two different paths. Let's light it up in high mode with the V2. So it's not necessarily a photonic barrier, but a lot of light pollution behind me, but still I'm getting an excellent, well-defined beam here out of the K2. And in sustained search, this is probably where I'd be doing most of my work, is in the high mode, very brief flashes in turbo. So I'm really digging this result, even though it's not as impressive as a several hundred yard turbo shot. Speaking of which, I'll give you what you want. We'll go back to some more work in turbo. Okay, speaking of parking lot, I want to light up the area straight ahead of me. There's a a very dark zone back there. That's just guessing 120 to 150 yards. And we've got all these other lights around me. I've got other parking lot lights behind me. And let's see what the K3 V2 does in turbo. And yeah, it cuts right through that. Nice, tight, bright beam. I mean, I can see all back into that area. All right, well, let's keep on going. Okay, here's a variant of the previous test. We're out night hiking. This is a nature preserve. Yeah, it has some wilderness aspects, but it's very urban. There's in fact a major street barely 50 yards or so off to my left right now. But I'm looking straight ahead. There's just a really dark area down there, even though it's a fairly well-lit parking lot. Okay, maybe I catch just a hint of movement. What is that? Let's light it up real quick with the V2 and turbo. And there we go. Okay, let's do one more creek test. My headlamp is in 400 lumen flood. Let's bring in the V2 in turbo. Distances here are longer than the last test.